What is up, y'all? Happy Black History Month. Hopefully y'all are enjoying the daily stories on the podcast Instagram page that I've been posting. Hopefully you're learning a new name, a new face. If you have a recommendation of someone you want to learn a little bit more about or someone you'd like to see highlighted, send it my way and I will include them. I've been trying to find more of the obscure, less common people, that you don't always hear about, but that are still very impactful in their career field. So sometimes I just search by career specific. So for example, I'm a professor, right? So I'm like, let me see who the first Black professor was. Taryn's going to be a physicist winning the next Nobel Peace Prize. Let's see who the first Black physicist was, whatever, etc., etc. So yeah, send me any recommendations if you have those that you want to see highlighted. And then also as a refresher, because obviously stories only last for 24 hours. So if you missed the first one, you probably didn't see it. I'm doing those stories kind of peddly out of spite. I don't want y'all to think that I'm just kind of trying to capitalize on Black History Month where, oh yeah, during February, you talk about all these things in diversity and then March 1st, they all disappear, right? Especially in our current environment where DE&I is kind of becoming a taboo swear word, if you will. It's getting pulled from a lot, especially in the federal spaces. It's getting pulled everywhere. And Black History Month and a lot of other heritage months are not necessarily able to be openly celebrated, I'll say. And so because of that, I'm like, let me double down on Black History Month. Let me double down on sharing some of these names and stories and highlights just because I'm petty, to be honest. Let's be real. Let's keep it honest here. Just because I'm petty, I'm like, oh, so it's banned in that workspace. Let me double down wherever I can because it's literally the least I could do. So that's why. And then also show it some love, give it some traction, throw the little heart, throw the little likes, add some comments if you're able to. Anything that really kind of helps get that message out there. I mean, I've said this from the start, right? I feel like if one person hears some of these stories and thinks differently, that's a win in my book, right? That's a success. If we can just adjust our perspectives a little bit, you don't know what you don't know. And that's why this whole podcast is here. It's just to help share stories, share information, and hopefully y'all learn something along the way. Because I know I'm learning something. Every time I put out these podcasts, majority of the time, it's not something that I actually knew beforehand. It's something that I learned for this podcast. So all of these people, all these stories that I'm highlighting, I didn't know anything about them before. But that's why this is here, right? So we can all learn. But last episode, I will admit, I got a bit spicy on the episode about anger. I got a little heated. So let's keep things a bit more friendly today. Let's get a little bookish. And beyond that, let's look at kids' books. So I got my daughter her very first library card yesterday. And yes, it was possibly the cutest thing I've ever seen in my whole entire life. I let her just run up and down the bookshelf aisles. And the first 5 books that she grabbed and handed to me, we checked out. And I mean, y'all know I'm a huge proponent for supporting libraries and also just reading in general. And dramatic hot take, but libraries are sort of under attack right now with the insanely high rates of book bans and challenges. If you need a refresher, or if you haven't checked it out yet, if you're a newer listener, episode 58, if you don't like it, don't read it. That episode goes in depth into how libraries handle book bans, the difference between bans and challenges, the top banned books list of the year, so on and so forth. So if you're interested in that in more details specifically, please check out that episode. But yeah, your local library probably has a whole wealth of information at your free disposal. I highly encourage you to check it out. Even if you're not into reading physical books, or if you have a job or kids or both where you don't have the ability to just sit and read physical books all day long, you can still use your local library card for audiobooks, ebook rentals through Libby. So I definitely recommend that app as well. And obviously each library is different, but our little library here in town has a bunch of kid events and activities like Wiggle Wednesdays, where they partner with the Y and they just read books and sing songs and just let them run around and play in the little play area. And they just get all the little wiggly energy out. And I just think that's the cutest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. They also have this 1,000 books before kindergarten reading challenge, where you give you this big tracker poster and marker and prizes along the way for reading books with your kid. And that's just so cute, you know? And I feel like in our world today, we need a little cuteness. We need a little positivity. Also, side note, because I have to make this clear. It's not 1,000 different books for your kid before kindergarten. You can read duplicates, is what I'm trying to say. So if you're like me, where you read the Going to Bed book by Sandra Boynton 87 times before bed, that counts as 87 books, right? So that's how they're tracking it. Anyway, where I'm going with all this, I've been getting Mina more books, and I was like, oh, Rainbow Fish. I remember liking that, I think. I remember and recognize this book. I think I remember Bright Colors, and that was cool. So that was one that I actually bought for her. And I'm not kidding. I sat down with her and started reading it, and I was like, oh, this is a weird vibe, but it must turn around in the end and do the whole, but all fish are great and you're good just the way you are vibes. And it was just not that. Because you know how kids' books are they're very much like parables, right? Like they're trying to teach the kids something. Here's how to share, or here's how to be nice to people, or eat your vegetables, whatever. And I think all books do actually matter. They do actually mean something. They're presenting a message, even kids' books. They're presenting a message, no matter how simple that message may be. But somewhere in that text, there is a message. And I like that. I think that's a good thing. All books are political. All books are that deep. Even kids' books. I think it's a good thing. And I just think it's on the parent to choose books that align with their values and belief systems to then instill into the kids however they choose. So let's get that straight right off the bat, right? Books do matter, and they are that serious. If they weren't, no one would try to ban or challenge books. So with that being said, let's look a little closer at Rainbow Fish. It's actually super popular, but a lot of teachers don't love it, and I see why now, to be honest. And you know how the algorithm works, so here's all. I had just gotten this book, I read it to Mina, I went, ew, and then within a couple days, I'm not even kidding, it had to be the next day after, something very recently, then I saw a video on Instagram explaining all the reasons why that book gave me an ew reaction. And so I'm actually going to read it to y'all now, don't worry, it's quick, because I feel like there's a solid chance you haven't heard it in decades, and maybe you'll have the same reaction I did. Okay. Far out in the sea lived a fish. No ordinary fish, however. He was the most beautiful fish in the entire ocean. His scales shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow. The other fish liked his colorful scales and called him Rainbow Fish. Come on, play with us, Rainbow Fish. But Rainbow Fish was proud and swam past them. A little blue fish swam along behind him. Rainbow Fish, wait for me. Please give me one of your glittering scales. They are so beautiful, and you have so many. Give you one of my scales? What are you thinking of? Cried Rainbow Fish. Get away from me. Shocked, the little blue fish swam away. Still excited, he told his friends about it. From then on, nobody wanted any more to do with Rainbow Fish. They turned away when he swam past them. What use were Rainbow Fish's beautiful scales if they were no longer admired by anyone? Now he was the loneliest fish in the entire ocean. I'm so beautiful, why doesn't anyone like me? I can't answer that for you, said the starfish, but if you go beyond the coral reef to a deep cave, you will find the wise octopus. Maybe she can help you. The rainbow fish found the cave. It was very dark inside and he couldn't see anything. Then suddenly 2 eyes caught him in their glare and the octopus emerged from the darkness. I've been waiting for you, said the octopus with a deep voice. The waves have told me your story. This is my advice. Give a glittering scale to each of the other fish. You will no longer be the most beautiful fish in the sea, but you will discover how to be happy. I can't, the rainbow fish started to say, but the octopus had already disappeared into a dark cloud of ink. Give away my scales, my beautiful shining scales? Never. How could I ever be happy without them? Suddenly he felt the light touch of a fin. The little blue fish was back. Rainbow fish, please don't be angry. I just want one little scale. The rainbow fish wavered. Only one very, very small shimmery scale, he thought. Well, maybe I wouldn't miss just one. Carefully, the rainbow fish pulled out the smallest scale and gave it to the little fish. Thank you very much, the little blue fish bubbled playfully as he tucked the shiny scale in among his blue ones. A rather peculiar feeling came over the rainbow fish. For a long time, he watched the little blue fish swim back and forth with his new scale glittering in the water. The little blue fish whizzed through the ocean with his scale flashing, so it didn't take long before the rainbow fish was surrounded by the other fish. Everyone wanted a glimmering scale. The rainbow fish shared his scales left and right, and the more he gave away, the more delighted he became. When the water around him filled with glimmering scales, he at last felt at home among the other fish. Finally, the rainbow fish had only one shining scale left. His most prized possessions had been given away. Yet he was very happy. Come on, rainbow fish, they called. Come and play with us. Here I come, said the rainbow fish, and happy as a splash, he swam off to join his friends. The end. Now, I personally thought this book was going to go the route of two ways. One, you don't have to give up parts of yourself, the best parts of yourself, the parts that make you unique. You don't have to give those up in order to be liked. Or two, I thought it was going to be like, okay, he gave away a shiny scale and then magically, because he was so kind, his scale would grow back and he would maintain all his shiny scales and then everyone's shiny together and happy and blah, blah, blah. But no, that's not how it went. And also I would like to say, is he egotistical? Yes. Right? Like, yeah, he's arrogant, he's conceited. Is that a bad thing? Yes. Should we present that that's a bad thing to kids? Yes. But then from there, the whole, yeah, give all of these away. You won't be beautiful anymore, but you'll be liked. I don't think that's the right message. I think we could have gone a much different route with that, and then it would have been better. I am not failing to see the metaphor on the economic stance, right? Of the whole, maybe this is a capitalism versus communism versus socialism. Yeah, that is not lost on me, right? But we're not talking about that today. We are just talking about people pleasing and setting boundaries, okay? And should you give away the best parts of yourself in order to be liked? Me personally, I don't think we should have to do that. I don't think he should have to give away his shiny scales just to have friends. That's just my stance on this. And so this book did not go the way that I thought it was going to go. And then it just kind of ends. And I was like, oh, okay. And is the world fair? No, obviously. Because I know that that's normally, the route that a lot of people will take in terms of book reviews, especially when it's a kid book like this, right? And so we're talking about the deeper messaging behind things. And I feel like a lot of people will say, well, the world's not fair. And no, it's not, obviously. But I do feel like the world won't ever be fair if we continue to allow it to be unfair. You know what I mean? It's that same argument of, oh, well, I had to walk uphill both ways to school, so you should too. Builds character, toughens you up. But wouldn't you have rather the school was just placed on even land? So you're not going uphill. No one has to go uphill. Wouldn't you have rather just focused on learning in school rather than on the challenges it took you just to get there? I mean, sure, maybe you got really strong calves because of it, but was a plantar fasciitis worth all of that? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it goes on. And I know y'all are probably thinking, woohoo, Maggie went off the liberal deep end, thinking a kid's picture book is single-handedly turning kids into people pleasers who can't set boundaries. And it's not that, but I think it does absolutely play into the culture of people pleasing. I'm going to post the video that I had actually originally seen onto the podcast Instagram page so you can see it. And she kind of goes through page by page of why it's a little bit problematic. And she calls it toxic, the most toxic kids book. But I do think it's sending a message that I don't think is an awesome message for kids. I think it does kind of lead into, okay, yeah, you are growing up in the culture of people pleasing. Do you want to be liked? Do you want to have friends? Well, then you have to give up what makes you beautiful. And then also, I don't like the idea of, oh, if you take away all your shiny scales and you're not beautiful anymore. It's kind of setting up that aesthetic that we already have issues of being superficial, of, oh, if you don't have the most expensive things, if you're not staying up to date with the trends, with the makeup trends, with the clothes trends, then you're not beautiful. And if you're not beautiful, then obviously you don't have any worth. I think all of these things play into each other. And we're just condensing that all into this little kids picture book that kids are now absorbing. Obviously, they're going to think it's fine and normal because they don't know any better. And I do just think it all snowballs. It is sending that message that you have to give up a part of yourself in order to be liked and in order to have friends. And let's be real, we know this, right? But I'm just stating this for the fact. Those aren't real friends, right? Those are superficial friends who only like you because you gave them something that they wanted. You had something valuable that you then in turn gave to them. It's very transactional at best. Friendships at that stage and all throughout middle school, elementary, let's be real, high school too, they're already so rocky because it's so easy to fall into a superficial friendship, to be liked, to avoid being teased, to maintain a social status or image because of peer pressure. And we know kids already have difficulties and struggle at that age navigating those relationships. So why are we don't need any books reinforcing those ideas. And again, like I think we all kind of agree with, books do matter. Books do send those messages, and the messages in them do matter because otherwise they wouldn't be getting banned and challenged. And do I think we should ban Rainbow Fish? No, I don't think so. I don't think we should ban any book. Really hot take here, but if we're pushing things to an extreme, as an example, I don't think we should ban Mein Kampf. I think it should be housed with the understanding that this is the thinking of a seriously unwell, deranged, evil person who did an insurmountable amount of damage to the world, multiple generations, right? But I don't think banning the book is the answer, because the book isn't evil. The message and the thought process and the person that did those things is evil. And I think we absolutely need to learn from our history, and you can't learn from it if it's banned and erased. So yeah, for Rainbow Fish, I think we should just collectively realize like, oh yeah, this book kind of sucks. I'm just not going to read it or buy it. I'll pick something else instead. I'll just pick Music Class Today by David Weinstone instead. Little positive transition here. This was one of the library books Mina picked out, and it's just a basic sing-songy type of book about a bunch of kids in a music class, but I thought the content was so sweet and exactly what we need in the world today. Like, it showed a diverse range of kids without boxing them into stereotypes, which is great, but like it shows, it's about this one kid who's really shy and not ready to join in with all the other kids in this music class. And so each page, the kids are running around and losing a shoe and shaking their little egg things, whatever they're called. And the boy is sitting on his mom's lap at the edge of the page saying, "I think I'll just watch here on your lap." And the music teacher says, "That's all right, that's okay. Whenever you're ready, come on over and play. That's all right, there's no rush. Whenever you're ready, come play with us." Which is just the sweetest thing, because some kids are shy. And think about it from their perspective. They only know their little world, which encircles their pet, their sibling, their mom, their dad, whatever. That very tiny, immediate range of safety. And that's their safety net. And it's scary for them to branch out and leave this safety of what they're familiar with and what they know. And so each page, each verse, they're kind of branching out more. You can see the kid kind of inching closer and closer to the other kids. And then by the end of the book, he does join the other kids and plays with them. And then music class is over. And then he's like, "No, I don't want to go." Classic kid tantrum stuff. But the other thing that I absolutely loved about this book, especially because it was just so seemingly unintentional and nonchalant, on one of the pages, the kid's running around all over the place, right? And then there's just a mom breastfeeding her baby. And right next to her is another mom bottle feeding her baby. And I just thought that was so cool on a couple levels because one, I feel like you never see breastfeeding in kids' books usually. I feel like I've never really seen that, especially not just a random book that isn't specifically about breastfeeding where they just throw it in. I say like it's normal. It is normal, but you don't normally see that, right? That's not normally a visual that you get to see. And the second layer of that I think is so cool is right next to the breastfeeding mom was a mom bottle feeding. And so then you don't have that shame of breast is best. It's just fed is best, right? And I loved that. And then the other thing that I really thought was great was they also had dad representation, which is cool because it sucks that it's only ever mom doing things in these books with the kids. Like mom's giving the bath time and then time for mom to turn out the light. And then good night, mom, I love you. Mom reads a story. Mom goes to the grocery store. Mom reads the books. Mom feeds the food. Mom cooks the food. All that stuff. You never really see the dad unless the dad is waving and walking out the door with his briefcase in hand, right? And so I love to see kids' books with dad representation where the dad is actually actively parenting and he's actively sitting in that role, interacting with the kid positively. It's one of those very unspoken, forgotten things that gets, I don't want to say taken for granted, but nobody ever thinks of it. And that sucks for the dad, because the dads are just doing the best they can. And it sucks to not see their representation. And so every time I'm out, anytime I see a book with honestly any reference to a dad in it, I try and get it for Daniel because they always get forgotten and that sucks. So yeah, Music Class Today by David Weinstone. I definitely recommend it for anyone with kids. It's a great book. It's cute. It also comes with like guitar chords. So you can actually, if you have a guitar and if you know how to play it, it's an actual song that he made with verses and choruses and stuff, which is really just the book that you read through. So yeah, it's cool. With that being said, that is it for my episode today. All I'll say is, as usual, make good choices, be a decent human being, read to your kids, pick good books that support your morals and values, support your local library, take care of each other, take care of yourself, take care of your kids, and I will catch y'all next time. Okay, bye!